Feedback. When you wear a new dress and ask your friend, "How am I looking in this dress?" then your friend replies with the feedback. In communication, feedback is an important part. It is defined as the response given to the sender by the receiver. The feedback makes the sender aware whether the message is received successfully or not, whether the receiver liked it or not, whether the choice of the channel was appropriate or not. Types of feedback. Feedback can be in various forms and of various types. Let us discuss different types of feedbacks used in communication. Descriptive feedback and non-descriptive feedback. Specific information in the form of written comments or oral conversation and provides meaningful information in a detailed expressive manner that also contains some analysis or suggestions is descriptive feedback. This type of feedback is often shared by a teacher with the student in order to help the student improve further. Non-descriptive feedback provides some specific information but does not give detailed descriptions. Specific and non-specific feedback. Specific feedback provides specific and detailed information and is more focused on a particular topic after observation, whereas non-specific feedback is very general as the receiver does not think about the message in depth. For example, the expressions such as "good job," "you did great," etc. No feedback is also treated as a feedback that indicates agreement of views and ideas. Formal feedback and informal feedback. A formal feedback follows a preset format or structure using which the receiver frames feedback and sends it. Formal feedback covers many predefined points and has a specific blueprint. The receiver frames the feedback as per this blueprint and sends it. Formal feedback takes time to construct and hence is not instant. Informal feedback, on the other hand, is spontaneously framed and does not stick to specific structure such as instant comments by the listener or audience. It does not take time to construct as it is instantly conveyed. Importance of feedback. Feedback is like a backbone in the entire process of communication. It is important as it shows the receiver is interactive. It sustains the communication process. It boosts learning by bringing the focus to goals. It is a basis of measuring the effectiveness of communication. Positive feedback motivates an individual to do the task even better. Negative feedback helps improve the task and enhance the performance of the sender. It helps in creating acceptable and friendly work environment. It promotes personal and professional growth. Barriers in communication. We have now understood the importance of communication in all walks of life and in society at large. We must take care to ensure that our communication is effective. The process of communication has multiple barriers. Barriers are obstacles or difficulties that come in the way of communication. They are the hurdles or problems which affect the transmission of information from the sender to the receiver in the communication process. A barrier in communication is anything that comes in the way of your effectively receiving and understanding the thoughts, idea or messages the other person is trying to convey. Types of barriers in communication. Sometimes you are saying one thing but people perceive it in another way. Miscommunication can lead to many problems. There are several factors or barriers which are responsible for the way people view our messages. These barriers are: physical barrier. Physical barrier separates people due to space and working environment where closed doors hinder the communication. In this case, face-to-face interaction is very less. It can be distance between people, a noisy system near telephone, poor lighting, bad health, and many more. Perceptual barrier. Perceptual barriers are created in the mind by none other than us through preconceived notions and the stereotyping of people. This can create misunderstanding as the viewpoint of the sender might be different from that of the receiver. Linguistic barrier. This is a common barrier we may face when there are people with varying mother tongues working together. For example, a Russian man who only speaks and understands Russian will not be able to interact with an Indian man who is only familiar with Hindi. Cultural barrier. Sometimes our cultural differences hinder us from communicating properly. For instance, in North America, it is okay to touch children on their heads, while in Asia, it is considered highly inappropriate and is not accepted at all. Gender barrier. Style of communication between men and women has generated barriers. The speech pattern and gender stereotypes cause gender barriers. Emotional barrier. Emotions like fear, anger, or happiness can create misunderstanding. It could be due to childhood instances which hold back people from expressing their views. Interpersonal barriers. When you do not hold yourself in high regard, you will find yourself getting diffident and ultimately retracting into a shell. This will prove a major obstacle and needs to be overcome for effective communication. Measures to overcome barriers. Following are some of the measures to overcome barriers. Eliminating differences in perception. Know your audience by trying to assess the needs of the receiver and by planning your messages accordingly. Evaluate the variables like age, sex, culture, or experience. Overcoming lingual factors. You should carefully think about the language needs of your receivers or audience. Use of simple and clear words helps communicate efficiently. Then you may use visuals, diagrams, drawings, photographs, etc. To overcome language barriers. You may also use non-verbal communication. Reduction and elimination of noise level. The source of noise should be identified and eliminated. Overcoming barrier of cultural influence. You should do proper preparation by knowing about the culture of the people you are addressing. You should clearly understand what things may be misunderstood or what things are perceived differently in their culture. Keeping these things in mind, you should then frame your message, ensuring that no part of it offends anyone as per their culture beliefs. Active listening. Listening is the hearing with proper understanding of the message. Listen attentively to avoid misunderstandings. Face-to-face interaction. It can ensure that your message has been understood through facial expression or tone. Acknowledge the other person's views by asking questions. Proper media selection. The medium of communication should be selected properly and the message should cater to the needs of the targeted audience. Effective communication. We have learned that communication can be simply explained as the exchange of information in the form of messages between sender and a receiver through a medium known as the channel of communication. Effective communication means transfer of the exact message in time with clarity. Principle of effective communication. We will try to understand the principles that can be followed to make our communication effective. These principles are being listed below. Clarity in ideas. It should be clear to sender what is to be conveyed. The clearer the thought, the more effective is the communication. Appropriate language. Ideas should be communicated in a simple and understandable language. Technical words and words with multiple meanings should be avoided. Attention. The purpose of communication is that the receiver understands the message and gives feedback. It is only possible if the message is of the receiver's interest. Consistency. Communication should maintain consistency in its objectives. There should be similarity in the flow of information. Adequacy. The information being communicated should be adequate and complete in all respects. Incomplete information is harmful. Economy. The communication should take place in a way that costs optimally. If there are other ways of communication that can convey message with less cost, then those methods should be preferred. Proper time. The message should reach the receiver whenever it is needed. Late messages are meaningless as the utility of communication is reduced. Also, the feedback must also be conveyed in time, otherwise it will lose its importance and effectiveness. Feedback. Feedback is essential as the sender gets to know how the message has been interpreted. It clarifies whether two-way exchange is success or not. Proper medium. Choosing a proper medium as per requirement is necessary. Importance of effective communication. Effective communication is a very important skill. It is essential for success of any individual or task. The importance of effective communication is clearly highlighted in the following ways. Approximately 75% of our day-to-day task involves communication. Nearly 73% of the people connected with the corporate world have great faith in the value of communication for their success. Approximately 57% of the projects that are not implemented successfully fail due to lack of good communication. 7 C's of communication. Each individual may find certain factors that help make his communication effective. This list cannot be exhaustive. However, over time, the principles of effective communication, whether written or oral, have been put together under 7 headings known as 7 C's of communication. We must follow the 7 C's rules of communication, which are concise. One should stick to the point and keep it short.
Human mind gets fed up of lengthy and repetitive information.
If the message is concise, it will grab the audience's attention. Concise messages are non-repetitive and save on cost and time. Concrete. The meaning of the message should be strong so that audience understands easily what the message wants to convey. Facts should be shared clearly. Correct. The communication should be error-free. One should always convey right things without misleading the audience. For example, for speaking to middle school students, a writer should use terms and language which they can understand and relate to. Clarity. While communicating, be clear about the goal of message. Do not let people guess your meaning. State clearly. Coherent. All points of the message should connect to each other and should be relevant to the main topic. Complete. The message should be completed and it includes all the relevant information. A complete message delivers everything to the audience as intended so that they can understand and take action. Courteous. The communication should be honest, respectful, and friendly. There should not be any hidden insults or passive-aggressive tones that indicate rudeness. Show respect in your communication. Sentence construction. A sentence is a group of words giving a complete thought. A sentence must contain a subject and a verb. There are mainly 4 types of sentences. Let us learn about them. Kind of sentences. Declarative sentence. A declarative sentence states a fact and ends with a full stop. It is also known as an assertive sentence. In this type of sentence, the verb usually comes after the subject. For example, this story is written by my brother. I love my family. Imperative sentence. An imperative sentence is a command, a polite request, or an advice. These sentences begin with a root, first, form of verb and its subject is not explicitly given. It ends with an exclamation mark or a full stop. For example, open the door, get lost from here. Interrogative sentence. An interrogative sentence asks a question and ends with a question mark. For example, why do you go to market daily? What is your name?
Exclamatory sentence. An exclamatory sentence expresses excitement or emotion. These sentences begin with words like what or wow, etc. and end with an exclamation mark. For example,
Wow, this is a brilliant idea. How lovely her performance is. Phrase. A phrase is a group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit, typically as a part of a clause or a sentence. A phrase does not contain a subject and a verb and consequently cannot convey a complete thought. A phrase contrasts with a clause. A clause contains a subject and a verb and can convey a complete idea. For example, Rahul drinks milk daily. This sentence has no phrases. All parts of the sentence are single words. My younger brother Rahul drinks milk daily. Now we have a phrase. It's a three-word phrase functioning as the subject of this sentence. Note that the phrase itself does not contain its own subject and verb. Let's say S for subject, O for object, V for verb, and P for phrase. The horse S runs V at a good speed P. A lot of people S do not sleep V at night O. He S sacrificed V his life O for the sake P of his country O. Types of phrase. There are 5 types of phrases. Adverb phrase. An adverb phrase is simply a group of 2 or more words that function as an adverb in a sentence. Adverb phrases typically answer the questions how, where, why, or when something was done. For example, I parked the car here. I parked the car right here. I parked the car right here under the bridge. Prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase is a group of words that consist of a preposition, its object, which will be a noun or a pronoun, and any words that modify the object. For examples, a singer with passion, a town near London, keep in time, he acts without thinking. Adjective phrase. An adjective phrase is a group of words that describe a noun or pronoun in a sentence. The adjective in an adjective phrase can appear at the start, end, or in the middle of the phrase. The adjective phrase can be placed before or after the noun or pronoun in the sentence. For example, the movie was not so terrible. A person smarter than me needs to figure this out. The final exams were unbelievably difficult. This pie is very delicious and extremely expensive. Noun phrase. A noun phrase is a word or group of words that can function as the subject, the object, or the complement in a sentence. For example, all the applicants were interviewed on Tuesday. Virat Kohli is a successful cricketer. Divesh, Divya and their friends went on a trip. He hopes to win the first prize. He refused to answer the question. Verb phrase. A verb phrase can be predicate of a sentence or a clause. In this case, there will usually be a helping verb in addition to the verb. For example, the author is writing a new book. I must make an A in this class. The dog might eat the cake. He was walking to work today. We grew apart after high school.